That way, a little bit better. And welcoming the speech language pathologists with their great shirts today. Good to see all of you, all the members here today, and the bargaining team in the district as well.
We do have a very Valentine's Day vibe going on in the room.
Yeah.
Let's go.
We also had a little bit of a Barbie theme going on. We did a fun little,
We saw
come on
that.
Barbie, let's go bargain. So yeah, so we felt inspired, yeah, to have a little, try to have a little summer fun with what we're doing. So we passed out some agendas, and then just a note again, you know, as you know, we're broadcasting by Zoom. We've got folks watching, and we record that and then usually post it on our YouTube so folks can watch it. And last time we did a lot of counters. We got the grievance language across, and that's kind of where we're at. So I think the ball's in your court. Okay. And we can, you know, we'll take your lead on which items you want to address first, and
All
go
right.
from there.
Sounds good. All right. So we've looked through a lot of different things. So I think it would be great for us to start with the grievance language first. And what I have is I want to be able to go through what you presented and let you know what we are in agreement with.
Okay.
Now, just like to set the expectations, we all know that when language is in the contract, the reason that we bargain is that both sides have to agree to remove that from the contract. And ultimately, somebody at a table like this at some point made an agreement to put that into the contract. So, so we're always real hesitant to change things that are already in the contract. But at the same time, we've looked through it all and want to go through each thing item by item. Okay. All right. So on, was it May 6th? Is that what yours said too?
Yeah, I think we
I think we had
it ready for May 6th, but then we brought it May 28th. So
correct.
we can just make a note at the top that you're
Okay. I think that would be good.
May 6th.
All right. So looking at the grievance language that you presented, and that was on May 28th. So, and I'm just going to go through where the red and the blue are. And
Okay.
for everybody, and I've shared it with our team because not everybody's used to looking at legislative language or contract language. Obviously what's written in black is what's currently in the contract. Anything that's written in blue and underlined are additions that someone is trying to make into the contract. And then anything that's red and with a strike through is something that's in the contract that you're trying to remove from the contract. Okay. So looking at 25.1.2, you propose to remove certified personnel and replace that with employees. We are in agreement with that. Okay. Just want to go through and do all the TAs and then we'll initial that.
Yeah.
All right. 25.2.1, we are in agreement to remove strike through teacher, replace it with employee. We are in agreement to strike through teacher, replace it with employee.
Mm-hmm.
And we are in agreement to strike through for the office.
Okay.
All right. We want to leave the rest of the language as is there. So this would be TA. All right. Looking at 25.2.4, we are in agreement to strike teacher and put in HCTA. .2.5, we are in agreement with your changes there for any and instructional and to strike through teachers. We do not want to put in 25.2.6. And we can go back through after if we have questions on these, but
Okay.
And we would want to leave 25.3.1. We do not want to put in at the pre-grievance level.
You're still on 25.3.1?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, sorry. So we're good with putting HCTA. We are not in agreement to add pre-grievance to the language.
Okay.
And we are in agreement to change the wording that you had done there instead of member of the association staff, representative assigned by CTA.
And are you good with the H on the beginning?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, we are. All right. 25.3.2, we are in agreement with the suggested language there.
Okay.
25.3.3, we are not in agreement to change that language. 25.4.1, we are proposing we leave the language as is. 25, oh, sorry, I missed one. 25.4.2. We're good with that.
Okay.
25.4.4. We are in agreement with that, but we know that the form needs to be negotiated, and I have our counter for the form today. But agree that I do think we need it, and we've started doing that, putting things in the appendix, so that's super helpful.
Yeah.
All right. 25.4.7. We are in agreement to change school day to work day. 25.4.8. We are in agreement to strike what's in red and add other board employee.
Okay.
25.4.9. We are good with that. Okay, 25.5.2, we have a counter.
Okay.
So you propose that it say a grievance may be withdrawn at any time during any step of the process. A grievance may be amended prior to level 2 by submitting an amended grievance on the grievance form, and that would be brand new language. We are countering with, let me make sure I have the right part here. A grievance may be withdrawn at any time during any step of the process. A grievance may be amended prior to level 2. Oh, and this is where our new language is. Upon written agreement of the association and district school board, however you want to word it. So basically saying that if because we don't want the process to start all back over if there's just something that needs to be adjusted.
Right. And that was the intent.
Correct.
Just, like, rather than, oh, we messed up on something,
Right.
or we, let's just fix it and move
Correct.
forward, rather than, okay, now we got to go back to the pre-agreements, deal with timeline. So, okay, so maybe amended
prior to level 2 upon written agreement of HCTA and the board, or in the district, however.
HCPS.
Perfect. Yep.
Okay. Okay. I think we're good with that.
Okay.
That was the intent.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
Okay. 25.6.1. That was the repeated language, correct?
Yeah, that was repeated in 25.4.7.
Correct. Yes. So we're okay with cleaning that up.
Yeah, so yeah. And then I believe also 25.6.2 is repeated in 25.4.
That is correct. And I verified that.
Okay,
So
so we're good with.
yes. Okay. 25.7.1. We are in agreement with the changes you made there. It's
Okay.
easier to say it that way.
Yeah, and the goal here was to try to fix that reference to 25.6. I don't know why it came up and then.
Well, and then to change the fails to solve the grievance to is not resolved to the grievance
Yeah.
satisfaction.
Because
We're okay with that.
that's what it's all about. So,
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
25.8.1. We are in agreement to adjust that to 10 work days instead of school days,
Okay.
as well as the both parts.
Okay. I think there's 3 parts actually.
Is there?
Goes on to the next
Oh,
page.
yes. Yep.
Yes, we got it. Okay.
All right. 25.8.5. And we had a lot of conversation with this, and we do feel that this kind of organically happens a lot of times in our level 2 conferences, but basically you are asking that the association shall have the right to follow up with its own questions to any witness.
Yeah.
And we're in agreement with that. Okay, 25.8.7. And I know we had a lot of talks about this, discussion about this last year, which wasn't really a year ago, a few months ago.
Yeah.
So to be transparent, we're good with the way it is, but we know this is super important to you. So what we are willing to counter with is all hearings held at level 2 shall be in closed session, period.
Okay.
And to strike the "and no news releases shall be made concerning progress of the hearing."
Got it. And just not include that at the grievance.
Correct. We would like it to remain in closed
I
session.
think that's a fair compromise.
Okay. 25.9.1, we are in agreement with the language there.
Okay. Yeah, that was just all kind of cleaning up.
Correct.
Grievance and days. Okay.
25.9.2, we're proposing we leave the language as is. We understand why you're proposing that, and we are committed to trying to accelerate the process as much as possible. However, sometimes the school board schedules are not as flexible as we would like. So we do not want to put this last language in here.
It's ready.
All right. 25.9.4, we are in agreement with the adjustment there.
There was a tiny little one on 25.9.3.
Did I miss it? Oh,
Finding of
yes.
fact.
Yes.
I know, it's very minor. But.
No, those are, we are an educational institution and we'd like to have proper grammar and language. So anytime we find those, I definitely want to correct those.
Yeah.
25.9.5, we are in agreement for those minor changes.
Okay.
25.9.7, we are proposing we leave the language as is. The only two, in letter E, all right, let me go there. Is right now it says the association staff person. So I think you wanted to put the association grievant or designee instead. So we don't want to change the order that's being presented, but we're fine with changing association staff person to association grievant or designee. Yeah. Okay. Does that make sense?
I understand.
Yeah. We also, sorry, I skipped one. Letter D. We are also in agreement to say that the association or grievant designee and the superintendent or designee shall each have 5 minutes for rebuttal. So, because that part's not in there right now, right?
Yeah,
so there was no rebuttal. So we're in agreement to put the rebuttal in the process.
Got it.
But we do not want to change the order of the events.
Okay.
Basically, you have to go first. Is what we're proposing, and we would like to keep it that way. All right, moving to level or 25.10.2. For consistency, again, we'll be changing the 10 school days to 10 work days is we're in agreement.
Okay.
Same thing with 25.10.3.
Okay.
Your request to change 10 school days to work days. All right, 25.10.4. We'd like to leave the language as is.
Okay.
25.11.2. That is, we're in agreement for that. Oh, wait, I skipped one. Sorry, thank
Okay,
you.
I figured.
Yep, 25.11.1, we're in agreement there. 25.11.2, we're in agreement there. And 25.11.3, we're in agreement there. Okay. And then it's past. Did I miss one?
Sorry, on F, I didn't catch, did you say no to that one on 25.9.7?
Yes, we said no.
No.
Yes, we said no.
Yes.
All right, let me pass across our counter to the grievance form itself. For you. The room's a little full, so I don't know if I have enough for everyone. I know I have enough for the bargaining team.
All of us, so we nominate.
All right. So what I did instead of creating a new form, I took your grievance form and just, did the whole red and blue.
Perfect.
So you can see that, and what I would like to do once we do come to agreement on what we want it to be finalized with, obviously I'd want us to pretty it up and also maybe look at making it a fillable PDF so that it is easier for employees and anyone to fill out. So
Yeah. Good.
So you would put name of aggrieved, but I thought consistent with your language that you just presented to go ahead and change that to grievant.
Good catch.
Address, city, state, zip, that I'd like to add that because we sometimes send responses via certified mail and just in case someone hasn't updated their address in the system.
Yeah, understood.
On our current form, there is a place for the pre-grievance conference. I feel that that's important to remain on the form because this gives us information on whether that first step has been taken.
Yeah.
Because we know to file a grievance, you have to have done the pre-grievance conference. So I would like to include that. Identify the name of person against whom your grievance is filed. I would like to put, which is on our current form, the title and position of that, as well as the date the alleged violation took place. I think that's important because for the contract, you have 30 days from the time the alleged violation took place to file the grievance. So that gives us that information. That is helpful. Describe the grievance. Like, I think that's great to have that there. And I just want to also be able to include that, what is the school board policy or contract section that's in violation? When we're filing a grievance, it's not just because someone's upset about something, because we have interactions at the school sites and things that maybe you're not happy with, but is it a violation of contract? Is it a violation of school board policy? And then at the bottom there, which I love that we do not have on our current grievance form, is the requested remedy. Like, what is it that would resolve this situation? So I think that's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
Everything's about solving at the lowest level. And sometimes you read grievances and you're not really sure what is it that would solve it. So again, just put grievance signature. I just added in a little bit of information there, grievant, and then level 1 decision. And then at the bottom, I do, in the contract, I'm the one that also, my office, because I won't always be the one there, but so employee relations needs to also have a copy of it. And really what I do, because I just help facilitate the process, right? So if you submit a grievance to a principal, and I have the copy, then I'm able to follow up with that principal, make sure that they're responding in a timely manner, all of those good things.
Right.
So that is our counter to the grievance form that you submitted last session.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Right.
So I know I went through and kind of teed the things that I think were
Yes.
good and took notes, and before we just completely sign off, when we caucus, I'll go over it with the team.
Perfect. All right.
I appreciate that.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
All right. Now, kind of jumping around a little bit, I would like to go over, instead of going, I basically have a counter proposal for ESP language. Okay, so instead of going through each of, basically, we're really not in a position, I'll just be transparent, we're not in a position that we want to put things in either contract this year that have a recurring cost. Okay, so we're trying to address some of those things through our economic proposal, but I do want to propose language right now in regard to the ESP salaries or ESP contract and around the idea of comp time and overtime. So I want to present that to you so that we can review.
All right.
All right. Okay, so what we are proposing today is basically for a lot of years in our organization, right? We avoided overtime, right? We avoided that because that's a cost. And instead we offered comp time. So what we would like to do, and we saw that as one of the priorities that you basically passed across through your surveys with your unit members, is that we would like to get away from that, right? Because people complain that they can't use the comp time, there's not all those things. And we'd like to instead take out the comp time language in the contract and replace it with overtime language. So that's kind of the overarching theme of what I'm about to go through. Okay. So when you look at 6.2.1, basically the first part, and again, remember the writing in black is what's already in there. The writing in red is what's in there that we're proposing to strike. And then in blue is anything we're looking to add. So right now, this section 6.2.1 is referring only to clerical. In cases where clericals are required to work beyond their normal 40 hours paid time, the affected employee shall receive overtime pay equal to 1 1/2 times the employee's rate of pay. Any hours must be pre-approved by the principal supervisor. That's all part of the Fair Labor Standards Act now, and that is what we currently do. But we are basically taking that provision, proposing that comp time in lieu of paid time can be granted. Instead, no, we're not going to do comp time. We're going to do overtime pay for anything that needs to be done after work hours. Okay. Same thing. The next part in black, we're not proposing to change that. Basically, if an off-duty clerical is called into work, that let's say the work only takes an hour, they still would get a minimum of the 3 hours of overtime. Okay. In the red there, we are proposing that we strike all of that comp time language because now there won't be comp time, it would be overtime pay. Okay. 6.2.2, in cases where paraprofessionals, now we're proposing that we strike where it says except for DHH interpreters and part-time OTPT, because right now, later in the contract, they already get overtime and don't get comp time. So right now, everybody, all paraprofessionals would get the overtime pay. If where paraprofessionals are required to work beyond their normal hours of paid time, as stated in section 9.3.4, the infected employee shall receive overtime pay. When the total number of hours and overtime hours in a week equal 40 or less, the overtime pay shall be equal to the regular rate of pay per hour. For any overtime hours worked beyond a total of 40 hours, the overtime pay shall be equal to 1.5 times the employee's rate of pay. That's all per the Fair Labor Standards Act. We're then proposing that we strike everything in red that is basically giving support employees the comp time for that. Okay, so same thing, like that's just striking all comp time language, since now it would be overtime. All right, 9.3.3. We would want to strike clerical and put employee there.
Okay.
9.3.4. Again, this is striking comp time and instead awarding overtime for the work outside of when it's necessary to work beyond your normal work hours. All right. 17.7.2. Employees who choose to participate in professional development programs conducted after the workday shall be granted a specific stipend if one is offered for that workshop. Now, again, that's when you're choosing to participate. That's voluntary working. If it was mandated that an employee had to do professional development after work hours, they would be eligible for overtime because if it's mandated and you have to go, you have to get overtime pay for that. Okay. And that overtime pay would be at your hourly rate of pay. And if it's over 40 hours, time and a half. Okay. All right, 18.2.2. This is ESP employees' attendance at each school's annual open house is voluntary. However, the parties recognize the importance of this activity to the school community. So in lieu of what we've been doing, which is awarding comp time, we would be awarding overtime. So therefore, ESP employees who attend open house at the request of their supervisor will be granted overtime for the hours worked. Is that me? Okay. For the hours worked beyond their regular workday. The supervisor must request approval from finance prior to offering overtime. So for open house, I actually think times have changed. And obviously you have a lot of different employees in the room who can probably speak to this, but I believe that a lot of people have moved away from open house after work hours. And a lot of times open house is either during, not all, but a lot have removed it, and it's either during the workday or during pre-planning. But for schools that still do it after work hours, that principal would just make the request to be paying those employees overtime for working open house. All right. 18.9.2. This is, again, I don't think this is something that happens often in consultation with a lot of our principals, but staff meetings in service at individual work sites that require attendance by ESPs shall be held during the normal workday. That is in language already. So it basically says here, exception shall be made on an individual basis due to extenuating circumstances. When they, I kind of skipped a part there, but if you read that. So basically we're saying we're not going to give comp time if you have to stay beyond for a meeting. First off, I don't think it's a great idea to have meetings after hours, honestly, but if someone had to for unique circumstances, overtime at the appropriate rate will be given for time beyond the normal workday. Again, the supervisor must request approval, which to put overtime in, that's our normal process. When you are requesting overtime for employees, you have to go through an approval process. Now, and you did see in here, I don't remember where it was, to be honest with you, but in an emergency, and we have shared this with principals, here's a common thing that happens sometimes. You may have an ESE unique needs aide who it's necessary that they are with that student, and that bus is late, okay? And that ESP has to stay after with that bus. We're not expecting a principal to get approval for that overtime, correct? That's an emergency situation that was not able to be looked at in advance. So those would be, again, instead of comp time, that would be overtime pay, which I do think that will be a significant cost, because I do think that happens quite often. Did you find it? Thank you. That was 9.3.3. Yes. And that's where it says employee.
Yeah, because I think 9.3 is kind of the general provision for all
Correct.
employees.
Yes.
You know, whether you're in the clerical unit or the paraprofessional unit. And then it's, you know, the same with kind of the in-service language and voluntary activities and staff meetings. That's not
Specific to
delineated
anyone.
between any kind of, it's all ESPs.
Correct. I just wanted to make it well known to principals as well as to employees that when it's an emergency situation, and that's an emergency, it's the safety and welfare of students. So in those situations, we're not expecting you to submit an approval request in order to have the employee stay after. But I think what's happening is, at least in my experience, that happens often. And those employees get comp time, and now they would be receiving overtime pay for that. And that's tough to estimate, but I do feel that that is a significant change to what our way of work has been.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we'll talk about it with the team, because I know there's gonna be a lot of questions, of course, but I think that that's generally what we've been hearing too, is there's so much comp time, I can't use it, I'd rather be paid. And that's been the big push, is got all this earned time for working, and you should be paid out. And one clarifying point and question I want to make, in 6.2.1 and 6.2.2, it says clerical and it says paraprofessional. I think it's important to clarify that when we talk about clerical, that's all clerical unit employees.
Correct.
And paraprofessional is all paraprofessional unit employees.
That is correct.
It's not just if you have the title of paraprofessional.
Correct.
Because we know our para unit has nurses, we've got
Correct.
aides, we've got assistant teachers that aren't necessarily defined as paraprofessional in their job title or code.
Correct.
So
And there's another example of that, right? Like,
Yes.
so nurses, sometimes you have a medical emergency at the end of the day, and a nurse stays after with that student. Now they would be eligible for overtime pay for that.
That might be one thing to do, is just, and we'll talk about is maybe adding some of that at the top. RNs.
Yes,
Nurses.
Because now we're currently not. Yeah, let's.
you get, oh yeah, okay.
Hold on.
When I say overtime pay, it's for the hours that you're doing, because we do have RNs that are the one unique individual in your unit that are exempt. But we do usually pay them for that, but we will clarify that language for you.
Because that's kind of what I was getting at, is, you know, we could, for each of the units, be clear about this is everyone, not if there's an exception, but you know, because I know in the past we've had except for interpreters and those folks, so.
And nurses are the unique situation where currently when they work beyond their 40 hours and they are working, they get straight time. But they do, you know, if they do an after hours assignment. Okay, so.
Hey, I just want to say something here that, you know, we appreciate this. I'm not saying that we're agreeing to it yet. We're going to talk with our team. But the thrust that we've had from this organization for the past year is trying to do what we can for the employees that can't pay their bills. So this kind of helps that. And when we talked about equalized pay, it was the same deal. They had that issue in January. And that was really what our original proposal was about, was trying to get to a spot where ESPs don't have to deal with that. But we still feel strongly that we have to get there. We owe it to them, because on those salaries, this is just, it's impossible to live in Tampa. So again, I just want to say thank you. This is creative, and you know, and we're going to come back and caucus about it. But thank you for this. It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think already one of the questions I know that will come is, what about current comp time? We're striking some language that talks about accumulated comp time that carries over. And we know that Fair Labor Standards Act requires that to be paid. So I think this will be one thing that, you know, we don't need an answer yet, but just expect this after caucus of what's going to have to, are we going to need to keep some of that, your current comp time, you know, not that it's just now it's a race, but what are we going to do? And if there's something that we can do either on, you know, our proposed language of paying out what's been accumulated to kind of start fresh, or work on something there, because I already can hear it. What about the current comp time I have? So we don't want employees to lose that. And there may be, you know, we may need to look at some provisions that maintain that for current moving forward.
And there is no intent behind this to get rid of the comp time that's on the books.
Anything that's been accrued stays.
And we will, but we would like to work with you to continue to work through like how we're going to work with that moving forward.
Okay.
and also encouraging site leaders to let people that have comp time on the books use it.
Yeah.
You know, that's a key piece, right? So someone's absent and they have comp time on the books. We want to get that comp time off the books.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, that's,
Got it.
we do want this to be what our way of work is moving forward, but we're not looking for people to lose what they've already accumulated.
Perfect, yeah. So I think that's what our employees, it's like, it just keeps
Sure.
piling up and piling up, so it's either use it or pay it, which is the
Correct.
intent of comp time, so.
Correct.
Okay,
All right.
I don't know. if-
And then I
We'll
think
bring back any other
the
questions.
only one I didn't do here, so just was this last one,
Yeah.
18.12.1.
Mhm.
And again, we're just striking the comp time piece out of there. And this is where if a school does conference night instead of conference day, which I believe most, if not all, do, that, you know, the ESPs as well can work conference night instead of conference day. Okay. All right. I know it's a lot of hearing me talk. Okay,
Okay.
so,
So am I, and I just want to
No, no,
clear point of
you're good.
clarification, so I know in everything we propose, your counter is essentially a no to everything else, but this is your counter to this one aspect of our original proposal?
the
Or
only.
their language pieces in the ESP contract?
The only thing that we, for ESP contract, so yes, it's a no to the other stuff, except for, which I believe you've already received confirmation maybe from, Ms. McCray, but if you look at, in the ESP contract, 6.1.4, the current language said for the 23-24 school year, highly qualified eligible ESP as defined by state and federal statute who provide instructional support in Renaissance schools shall be paid a salary differential minimum of 5%. You had proposed that because we were extending Renaissance to change that to 24-25, and we're in agreement to do that. All right. Make sure I don't get too discombobulated here. All right. Next, we've kind of just been doing ESP, so I'm going to continue with ESP. All right. So this really doesn't look much different than what we had proposed before. So what we strongly feel is that we are not in a position to do new salary schedules that are a recurring cost at this time. We just agreed to these salary schedules in October. You guys ratified them in October. The employees ratified, we put them into place in November. We have not even had movement on these salary schedules yet to see. We propose them because we believe we can sustain what we have in those salary schedules. And increasing at this time would not, it would put us in a deficit with operational money. But we do know that we have some non-recurring money, right? So we've been very clear about that. So this here, really the only clarification that you would see here is for number 3. And you had countered with the idea of the supplement idea for the, this is for ESE employees, right? ESE support employees. And you had countered with the supplement to add in, and we still think it's better for employees to do this. I mean, that's,
and I think
it's not that we're against that, we just think it's
I think
better.
through our conversation, we It was good discussion on that last time to kind of
Yeah.
understand what we're doing there, so. Okay.
And for a couple different reasons. First off, employees doing overtime, what is their overtime based on? Their hourly rate of pay.
Right,
So this would also, when they're getting overtime, this would be their hourly rate of pay, where a supplement would not be incurred in that,
Right.
right? So I think for a lot of different reasons, we're not countering because we are against what you proposed. We
understand.
just think this is better for employees.
yeah, I think
Okay.
we were both trying to get to the same thing, maybe just a different way.
Correct. So number 3 there, eligible ESE instructional support employees, and I did attach the job codes, which I think is important because shall advance one step on their respective salary schedules and be regraded 1 pay grade. So this kind of gives us a more visual of what that would mean. And I think I used the example last time. If someone was a para 1 on pay grade 15, step 1, then they would go to pay grade 16, step 2. Okay. And then this shows some of our instructional support positions. These are all the ones under the ESE umbrella. We left somebody out. It was not intentional. So
Yeah.
you look over it.
Yeah.
So, these are the ones that we feel are under the ESE umbrella. Okay. All right. So that is ESP. Get that out right. All right.
So there was no counter to ours, you're just maintaining your original.
Correct. Because we're not looking to change the salary schedules. And everything else, we had the same already. So we had already, both of us on both of our proposals had proposed 1 step. Both of our proposals had said top step payment of 1,000. Both proposals said regrading nurses from pay grade 33 to pay grade 34. Both of our proposals said LPNs being regraded for pay grade 25 to pay grade 26. So everything else, the reason there's no change is the language is the same. The only difference is which salary schedule is it on. Okay. So that is why you don't see more change. Then I would like to pass across instructional. Nope.
Nope.
It sure can.
And,
Nope.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Well, did I pass them all across? I messed up.
Do you need?
Thank you. No. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure. All right. So this is our counter for the instructional unit. Again, like I mentioned previously, we do not feel that we're in a position to change the salary schedules that we just implemented. We have not had movement on these salary schedules yet. I'm proud of the work we did on the salary schedules, but we have not had a step on these salary schedules yet. So we are proposing that we maintain our current salary schedules. And if you look at number 1, which we had said previously, instructional bargaining unit would be credited with 1 year of experience in advance on their respective salary schedules. Number 2, again, eligible instructional employees at the top of their respective salary schedule will receive a one-time top step payment of $2,000. Number 3, eligible employees who are licensed school psychologists, licensed school social workers, licensed mental health clinician, licensed OTPTs, I put that in there, or certified behavior analysts would receive a one-time $750 supplement. That was what you had countered with, and we are in agreement with that as part of our proposal. Number 4, eligible SLPs who hold their Cs. You had countered with 1,500 when we had offered the 1,000. We also are putting 1,500 in our proposal. Number 5, ESE instructional employees, and I did attach the job codes that we used during our MOU this past year, as well as school psychologists, which there's approximately 154. And instructional employees assigned at our exceptional centers to receive the one-time supplement, and you had countered with 1,500. So we put 1,500 in there. Number 6 is unchanged. That was the National Board Certified Teachers receiving the one-time $1,000 payment. Number 7, I think we had already discussed that, but I put it in the agreement so that we could codify it there. So National Board Certified Teachers who teach in Renaissance or Transformation to receive the one-time payment of $4,500. Number 8, again, I think we've already discussed this, but this was just to codify it. Effective July 1, 2024, instructional employees to be eligible for the advanced degree supplement. And again, currently in our salary schedule, the advanced degree supplement is $1,000 for master's, $2,000 for specialist, and $3,000 for doctorate. Currently, based on the statutory language, it has to be eligible, it had to match your certification area. So the language has, some of that language has loosened up. Effective July 1. So we would like, it doesn't mean we have to do it, but I think we should. And we agree with that we would then, loosen that up where eligible employees, even if it wasn't in their certification area, would now be eligible.
Right.
That's an unknown cost. We had approximately 45 employees, and I might have my number, I might be off a couple. I have it on our sheet from last time, that were denied last time because it didn't match their area of certification.
Right.
So we'd be sending approvals to those. And then you put it out in one of your releases. So we've already started getting some, like we've received 15 this week that have submitted because they're like, ooh, I'm going to be eligible now. So I don't know what that number will grow to.
Right. We know that there could be folks that didn't apply before because they read the language and they're rule followers and they said, nope, I don't qualify. I'm not going to submit it. So we do believe those will start to come in, as well as moving forward. We're working through, our HR team actually had a meeting this morning to discuss, we don't want people to have to apply for it. Right. Because the application process was necessary because we didn't have it in the system. We had to vet them. But now new hires, there's going to be a mechanism for them to submit that while they're applying. And then they would automatically, we would, assign it to them. So they don't have to then apply. Okay. As far as looking at what some districts do. Okay. A lot of districts, from the time you apply and you submit your transcript, you're eligible moving forward. Right.
We are proposing, because we know this is a transition, that let's say you submit your transcript in October, that we would retro that back to the beginning of that school year. Okay. So that fiscal year, or the date that the degree was conferred, because some people are getting their degrees, right? If you get your degree in October, then obviously we can't retro it back beyond that. So whichever one is later. So you would be eligible for it in the year that you applied for, submitted your transcripts. I guess that's. Now, new hires, they still will need to submit those advanced degree transcripts because most of them only need the bachelor's to apply for their position, but there will be a mechanism for them to submit their advanced degree transcripts as well. Okay. And that is what a lot of, when I looked there, those are kind of the two schools of thought. Some people retro it back to that fiscal year, and some people, it's just from the time you move forward. So.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, fiscal year makes sense just because we know sometimes, we talked about this in one of our meetings about sometimes there are challenges getting those transcripts. You've got it, you've been teaching with it, but just trying to get those transcripts, that there's a cost and sometimes they can't be found or all kinds of things. So we appreciate that.
And the good thing is, just for those who may not know, this past year when we did institute the advanced degree supplement, we processed over 3,000 employees that were approved for the advanced degree supplement. So it was a significant number, and those employees are already receiving that. So this will just add to that number.
So and none of those employees would have to resubmit.
No, we already have everything they need.
I know we'll just get that question, so I figured.
Correct.
Put it out
Nope,
there.
that's a good question. That's a good question. And then number 9 and 10 are the same thing that we mentioned before. I think it was important, and you had kind of mentioned this last time. You know, we know that the cost of insurance has increased, right? Insurance has gone up. And I had put the total cost for the CTA bargaining unit. So that was $130 million. But I think like you had mentioned, and I think it's very valid, we're talking about increases here, right? We're looking at what are we increasing?
Yeah.
So for your bargaining unit, that is in a cost to the district of $6.4 million.
That both ESP and instructional?
That is correct.
So that's like.
So that's the
new
increase. That's the new cost.
Recurring cost,
Correct. The new recurring cost for this year is $6.4 million.
which will put it out 130 million approximately total.
Mhm.
Okay.
You notice I look at that, right? Make sure I did it right. All right. Okay. And then the cost of fingerprint monitoring fees, you know, those have to be rerun every few years. So the district has been carrying that cost. All right. Looking at the third page. And this was something we went back and forth with last year. And we are proposing that we maintain the same employees that received the ESE bonus this past year. And that does include some employees that are not in the classroom.
Right.
Right. So we did, when we worked with you this past year, we included ESE DRTs, staffing specialists, transition specialists, and audiologists doing the unique work with the with our ESE students. And that is what I have.
All right.
Oh, I actually have one more thing that I wanted to bring.
I have one thing too, so.
I'm sure. I'm sure you do. So like I mentioned, we are not proposing that we put any recurring costs into the contract that you had proposed.
Okay.
However, what we are proposing, and this is part of 3.4.6. Okay. 3.4.6 currently reads, so I'm going to read what it currently says, at least the first little piece of it. In an event that it is necessary to assign a teacher substitute duty during the planning period, the teacher may choose to be compensated either by comp time or their hourly rate, or no, sorry, that's the current language says, choose to be compensated either by comp time or pay to be negotiated. The rate of pay shall be no less than the highest hourly rate for a substitute teacher. So currently when a teacher covers during their planning period, the rate that we did for the 23-24 school year was $18 for an hour. And for elementary, when they have 30 minutes of planning, that's $9, right? So we know one of your priorities is to try to increase, you know, the amount that people are, when they're losing their planning period. So we are countering that, like we want to leave that language as is, but we'd like to talk about increasing that to, instead of $18 an hour, to $20 an hour for the 24-25 school year. Okay.
Anything else?
That is what I have. No, that's.
We do have on that language, with the proctor testing
Oh,
and.
great. Yep.
I think everyone on our team got a copy of this. It should myself. Should be plenty there. I'll show you what we did. I'm hoping this works. All right. Everybody gets a copy. Extras.
Yeah, myself.
You guys all got one down there? All right, so this was the 3.5.2, where there was that awkward proctor testing and that didn't really make sense. So we don't believe it goes there. We believe if you look up then into 3.5.1, what we've done is just added there where administrators shall grant comp time for duties assigned beyond the normal workday, or when planning time is missed for student necessities such as administering and proctoring tests. And that's where we're putting it there, or supervising students, and then and the comp time need not be used immediately. So we're striking it there, but you putting it there.
You found its home.
Yeah,
You found its
we're
home.
proposing that's the home
Okay.
for it.
All right.
So that's our
Okay,
fix.
that sounds.
All right. So we're definitely gonna have to caucus. It's a little bit before 11:30. I know that will be putting us at lunch. Do we, I'm thinking, I know last time we said an hour and it took us 2. And with the lunch.
Take what you need.
Why don't we say we're back at 1:30? Okay, so let's
Okay.
just set 2 hours so everyone can do lunch, bathroom, all that good stuff. And I think that, you know, for this time, that should work for us.
Okay.
If for Rob, are you good?
I think
Okay.
everybody heard us.
Okay.
All of West Tampa.
All right. So, all right. So we had a interesting discussion in our caucus, and I guess I wanted to say that, you know, because of this shared desire to ensure that employees know what's coming for the 24-25 school year, we've come together ahead of time, and we really have in a very long time. And we have this shared goal of, but what we've heard a lot from the school board through this bargaining session at the table is about gains made, we say last year, but this year, right? Gains made on the salary schedule and how great that was. But one thing that we hear missing is a critical part about that HCTA made at the time of settlement was that can't be the end, right? And we've said that consistently. We came this year with a lot of employee data on what those priorities are. And so while we've heard concerns and we say this all the time, you know, we never come to the table with the intent of putting the school board in a budget, you know, deficit. But we've heard that, you know, increases to the scales would put the district in a deficit, and, you know, we disagree. So we're gonna walk you through some of our budget information to talk about why we think that the board can't afford to invest in employees. So let me get this going. Do this right. Sorry, I'm trying to do it so folks at home can watch too. And so that would be on. Oh, the shared screen. Okay. Oh gosh. There you go. Like hand-eye coordination here. Because it was slow. All right. Yes. Okay. And then hopefully this will work as I hit my key. All right, so we're gonna go through our presentation on why we believe that the school board can't afford to invest in employees. And we're gonna walk through some information that we've found through our research in the FEFP. And this is, first off, we have information from the final the final conference report of money that's mandated for salaries for 24-25. And this is our classroom teacher and other instructional personnel salary increases. This is about 15.3 million. And I know we asked about what percentage of charters. Now we went and just used the DOE data on charter enrollment and got that it's about 16.1% we used. So this total minimum amount, and this is excluding money that's coming to maintain, because the FEFP is clear. I have some of this, forgot to hand this to you all. This is the kind of the worksheets that are going to break down each of these slides. And we'll share this presentation with you too. But in money mandated for instructional salaries, new money, there's 12.8 million new money coming into the district. We also looked at some state categorical programs, which includes the class size reduction allocation and state funded discretionary supplement. And we look at these and compare them.
I'll take those back.
I've got extras if you need them. So these two state categorical programs, we looked at, you know, comparing what was in the third calculation to what's in the fourth and the final conference report. So this is kind of where we're at now and what's coming in. And so you see 14.5 million. And then there's available base funding, and this is that base student allocation. So there's, and we get to this 29.4 million or 29.5 million through looking at the total base funding, and that's easily seen on the FEFP. We back out that classroom for the TISA or the TSIA, back that out. And then we are looking and we're backing out the cost of the Family Empowerment Scholarship vouchers for students. And we do see, and then we're also calculating what's the cost, what amount of that money is actually gonna go to students. And that gives us a available base FEFP funding of 29.4 million. Put all of that together, and that's new money coming into the district, 56.9 million. We also see in the third calculation a windfall amount of 4.3 million, which is an adjustment that the state made for overpayment of vouchers for the prior year, right? And we've talked a lot about that. We've heard the board talk a lot about this, that there's these overestimates, they hold these vouchers back, and then when that doesn't happen, we get that money back. And that's we see that right now in the third calculation. So we've also been listening very much to what's been said at school board meetings. So even the superintendent, you know, the state is predicting this loss of enrollment. He said this at the school board meeting in February, but he doesn't think that we're going to see a loss of enrollment that they would predict. We place units based on projections we feel we will be at, and we have a process in place that if there's a loss of enrollments, and we will see in August what that is, if any, and he's not anticipating much of a loss. We also had Ms. Johnson make comments on this, that we have not lost students. And when Member Rendon said about the projections for next year, this is a projection and it was confirmed that is correct. And then Member Rendon herself said, we are not losing students to House Bill 1. Family empowerment often is going to students who are already homeschooled, already private schooled. We have not lost students. HB1 has not affected the school this year, and this is a projection, not a reality, and looking at what's coming. So when we talked about this, we talked about this in last bargaining, available funds in the current budget. And we know that there's a lot of talk about non-recurring and recurring funds. When we look just at employee pay, what has been budgeted just for employee pay and benefits, this is all employees. The district has budgeted more than $169 million than they spent last year. So this is in the current budget for employee salaries and benefits. And these sources come directly from the district summary budget and the annual financial reports that are filed with the DOE. And we also adjusted looking at the March budget and financial report at the school board meetings. There's also other available funds. We talk a lot about these non-recurring funds. So again, there's 169 million just for employee salaries in the budget right now. And I will make a note that when we look at the March budget report, only 61% as of March of the total budget has been spent. We've got 3 more months to go. So we can kind of see where we're headed. We can also look at our fund balance and see what's gone on. These are other available funds. And we've looked at this many, many times, and you've got the graphs in your packet that the fund balance in 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023, these are all final amounts, the combined assigned and unassigned. That's non-restricted funds. That's all we look at. We're not looking at those restricted funds that have to go towards grants and things like that. These are funds that are reported in the annual financial report. And then for this year, there was a projected fund balance of 13.8. And here it is in graph form. And we can see that consistently the district has maintained around 6 to 7% in their fund balance, what they budget, what we budget, and where we end up. And then we've seen what happened. We budget, and then we end up with these large increases to the fund balance. And we've continually talked about how there's money in the budget that is left unspent that then goes into the fund balance. And we can see that currently. And in one of our sessions, we asked what the fund balance was at this time, and we were told 17%. That's approximately 340 million currently in the fund balance, while we also have money in the budget over what we spent last year. And when I talked about the 169 million, the entire budget is there's over 200 million budgeted right now that was not that over what was spent last year, while there's also money in the fund balance. So again, we're saying our projected fund balance is 13.8, but as of, I think when we met in May, 17%. So this is all in line with what we've been hearing at the school board meetings. Again, Ms. Johnson talked about the outlook revision reflects a 9% increase in the fund balance over the past year, with the reserve policy intact, equal to 3% required by state, and we are way over the 10%. And this is in reference to the reserve policy that requires budget stabilization reserve equal at least 3% and no more than 10% of the general fund reserve. And this was data that was used to up the district's credit rating, right, bond rating. We had then Mr. Jeff Wolf, who is the financial auditor, presenting in February saying revenues compared to prior year, that's the money coming in, outpaced the increase of expenditures, that's the money we spent, which resulted in a net positive change in the fund balance of 143 million compared to 38 million. And we see that again in our chart. So again, financially, a pretty strong year for the general fund. And then school board member Gray. I was worried, right? Everyone's worried about the loss of FTE. I was worried about FTE loss for homeschooling, charter schools, private schools. However, it did not come into fruition, that nightmare. I mean, we all agree that this is not ideal for public schools in the state of Florida. In fact, the fund balance is very impressive, so impressive that you are using that money to invest in treasury bonds. Now we're at a 12%, and this was in December. And that's even with teacher retros, with teacher salaries, yet we're still coming out at 12%. We are financially healthy and financially stable. And I think this has been a point that's been asked many times, you know, and we kind of made this in our last presentation, this point that we're so financially healthy that we're able to invest while our employees are not. And we are again sharing this information that our ESP survey and our instructional survey, these top priorities is money in their base salaries. And we've talked about compensation for extracurricular activities, and with number 3 rounding that out is you know, pay for professional development, and the same for our instruction. So we've said this a lot, budgets are about priorities, right? Many educators and support staff are struggling to make ends meet, facing financial stress and uncertainty daily. We hear about this all the time. We get calls about this. I mean, our team, it's a struggle because we sit here and talk about the frustration that they face when they go back, and we get the calls of, to us, do more. And we're here, you know, asking you as a team to make sure that you portray this to the school board. And again, while our employees are struggling, that fund balance continues to grow steadily, allowing the board to invest. I mean, we kind of joked about the other day when we were talking about, you know, investing in properties, right? Having investment properties. I mean, that's not a thing that our folks can do. It's very rare. So while, again, we agree that the district financial stability is important, but that large fund balance should not come at the expense of financial instability for school board employees and their families. So, you know, we took a good faith leap and adjusted our last proposal by 20 million on each employee unit proposal. We have been clear and consistent about the priorities and the needs, while it appears the board shifts that message to fit certain audiences. That's what it sounds like. When we look at these comments and these statements at board meetings, and then we sit here and talk about financial uncertainty and potential, you know, deficit, that does not jive. And when the data doesn't either. The one step will not create trust in the future, and it will drive employees away. You know, we talked a lot about the millage. That potential of the millage will not fix what's happening now. I mean, that's not going to happen tomorrow. That's not going to happen early next year. And we had a quote that I heard earlier in our caucus that not giving now is costing the board greatly. We see this in contracted services. You're spending, not you, but the board is spending over $10 million in contracted services for nurses. And when you look at that cost, it is costing the board money. And those are employees that would come work here. And we're sitting with all these vacancies. The same with our school psychologists. And it's why we continue to scrimp and try to scrap for these one-time supplements for all these employee groups, because that's like the best they can do. And that's a problem. So, you know, we're coming with our counter. Our ESP counter, there's probably plenty here. Instructional. probably keep these back for our team. Give me a know if I. And without reading it all, because you probably know where we're going with this. Okay, if we need extras, sorry. If you have extras, hand back.
This is the instructions. Did I pass you the instruction already? Okay.
All right. Does everybody have it?
The instructional? Yeah. You can go down that one.
Yep.
All right. I thought maybe the team we printed them, but I guess we didn't get to it.
I was just about to say.
They just
We need
came
to
up.
get it.
Sorry, my fault.
Sorry.
No.
I need intermission music.
Rob, do you have it?
I do.
All right. So this felt kind of a little bit like last year, right? When we got to a point where we've been bargaining, we came with a presentation, the board brought their counter, our last session. We scrambled, we worked hard in our caucus, and I said, we made that good faith effort. We came down $40 million. And we were in a range based on our research that we believe the board could pay for it right now in their budget. We recognized that there were some efforts made in some of those one-time payments, and we talked. And while we are absolutely ready, we're ready to work, we're ready to bargain in good faith. But when there's not an adjustment made on that salary schedule, we can't counter that. That would be bargaining against ourselves. So what we put together, we are also, just as the board did today, we're presenting our same salary schedules with everything else in place. But I think that's the point where we're stuck is number one, right? Salary schedules shall increase in accordance with the salary schedules agreed upon. Everything else in this proposal is the same that you passed to us earlier, and the same salary schedules are attached. So what we are proposing is that you go back to the school board and you let them know what we as a team are presenting on behalf of employees we represent. That's over 16,000 employees that are hurting right now. We have to do something on the salary schedule. We're ready to bargain that. We were ready to make a counter, but we got to see that the board is willing to go there too. So I'll be happy to share this presentation. I've got extra handouts, but that's where we're at. All right.
Well, and I think we should shy away from the fact that all the rest that we want to leave the same is us, obviously,
I understand.
accepting what you offered.
Yep.
And we have said that we have, the one-time money to do. I also think and I don't want to speak for finance because finance is definitely they know this better than anyone else. But I think it's important to look at the teacher salary increase allocation. That I do know pretty well. And just like you mentioned, this year there was $15 million in new money. Last year was about the same. So that $15 million in new money, last year we bargained way over the new money. Okay, way over. In fact, we came with almost 40 million on top of that new money. So it's not really completely transparent to say we have $15 million in new money because the maintenance fund is approximately 40 million short than what we did last year. So I think that's just important to mention that that's not how the TSIA works.
Right.
Otherwise, what we would be doing is every year we'd be coming and saying, the TSIA is giving us 15 million in new money. Let's divide that by everybody, and that's all we have.
But I'm gonna read directly from the third this is the final conference report. There's the base funding, which is $1.4 million. There's then a column of a 5.59% for maintaining 23-24 increases. So that's $80 million.
For maintaining the increases from the 15 million.
Right?
It doesn't maintain the increases that we went over and above the 15 million.
Understood. But I also want to be clear that when this legislation came through, it was clear. The legislative notes, what was said on the floor is that the TSIA, this money was not to supplant regular bargaining, right? The goal of this money was to raise starting pay to 47.5. But there were, when asked in the legislature, the makers of this bill said that there's other money sent to districts. So in addition to that new 12 million, minus 15 minus the charters, there's other money in the FEFP. Agreed, it's not as much as it was last year, but when you have over 200 million budgeted for this year, over what you spent last year, with nearly 340 million in reserve, that's where we're at. And you've got school board members saying, wow, even with retro and teacher raises, we're doing so well. We're investing. Our employees can't. So again, what I'm saying and what we said last time in our proposal was we're willing to bargain in good faith. So we understand where we're at in this proposal. We've got to do something on the scale. We have to do something for base salaries. Again, that millage, while we think, the superintendent talks a lot about how that's about retention and retaining, and we can't recruit people, and we can't keep people because they're going everywhere. If we don't do something now, that won't matter. It's still a potential. It's on the November ballot. It still has to pass. And even when it does, we've still got to wait time, right? We have to do something now. We have to do something that will create that trust and that faith that I've got it on my salary now, because if, again, with our goal of knowing what's coming next year for employees, they're going to see that and they're going to look around and say, well, I'm going to go somewhere else. And it's happening. Over 1,000 vacancies in instructional, I think, was online. We know, and when we are at processing, we're there onboarding, we're seeing the decrease of employees that are coming in. We see the number of resignations on our staff desk. So, we understand. And then at the same time, we're dumping, again, 10 million into outside contracts. If we could put that into the salary schedules now, we'd be in a much different place. But we've said at this table, we understand we can't just take 10 million away from contracted services. But this is what we're saying. We have to do something. And what we're saying right now is we're keeping our proposal from last time on those scales, asking the board to come back, bargain with us on that. That's what we need to see happen. And let's see what we can do within, where we get, right? Where we think you are, or where you think you are, let's see if we can meet. That's what bargaining is. So.
Okay. Does anybody have anything to offer?
On behalf of finance team, I would say, guys, I guess I have to present again, you're looking at it the wrong way. This is not what we did. What's the S, right? So we talk about that one denomination, people living the S. Those people that would be moved to asset fund is back on the. So what you see in the budget is every employee now that was temporarily moved to a restricted resource is back on the. And when I build the budget, I build it based on projections. That is correct. This is the first time this year that the state projected that we're going to lose 7,000. That's the discussion that me and the board members was having back and forth. I don't know if we're going to lose 7,000. The board doesn't know. You don't know. Nobody knows where those kids are going to go. Right? We have limited amount for vacancies and contract services. Because I have to look at both. It's a balancing act, right? I put all the money into vacancies. But I know the reality is when we have some more contract service that we have to pay public service or everything. As much as I look at this organization, I look for everybody. Because I do think the teachers are not getting what they need in other positions. I'm not just looking at the teachers. I'm looking at all of our communities possible. Since I came here, we have tried. I've tried my best to get you guys move up and pushing money. I'm pushing money out there because one time we were over allocated positions. So what that does, we talk about capacity of the budget. When you're running a business, let's just give you an example. McDonald's only making a certain amount of revenue, right? Let's do it because they're making McDonald's or something. So if you got 20 people, right, and you know your revenues is only a certain amount. So you make the decision at McDonald's, hey, I'm over here and I get selling burgers and french fries and coffee or anything you gotta say. What is my true capacity? And that's what I talk about. Our budget is based on capacity, and that capacity is enrollment up here, right? So most of my resources coming in from the state is based on our enrollment. So with that being said, we're limited how much we get from the state. So it's a balancing act. Yeah, I'm looking at ways that we can look at the contracted services, right? And adjusting like RN, LPN salaries, so I can, it's a balancing act. Because if you guys is one union, we got other unions that we have to deal with too. So all those resources you're looking at, they just not the teachers, they just not the bus drivers, they not, it's for the whole system. So I'm looking at the whole system as a whole, right? I have limited amount of vacancies. I want to hire all those vacancies we possibly can to service kids, because that's important for teacher in front of the students. Now, there's a balance that we have to say, if I don't get all the kids, right? If I don't get, they cut me 7,000, because when I'm building a budget, I'm building on projection from the state. The state dictate how much I can build, because that's how much they're gonna give, right? So if I want to be conservative or not, that's what I'm telling you. I'm not being conservative. I have to deal with the state. If they say you're wrong, we're gonna do this, that's how much we build. Now we got a thing that the Family Empowerment Scholarship that I think that a lot of people need to be educated on. Our student count, enrollment in Hillsborough County is going up. So we get a lot of students moving, people are moving in Hillsborough. Hillsborough County Public Schools might not be the choice for those families that's moving in. So they might choose Family Empowerment Scholarship, and the problem is, those scholarships get priority over the school district. So if I take my child and say, I roll in Family Empowerment Scholarship, I bet what we're doing is waiting. They said, we're taking that funding from you, because I decided to roll my kid in Family Empowerment, even though I'm still technically Hillsborough student. So my thing is, when we true up, that comes in October, after we try to hire all these positions and everything for our enrollment count. We truly budget over 100. We're allocating union to the site, right? At 186,000 kids. State said we're gonna have 176,000. So that's a 10,000 change, right? So right now, the budget is being built based on 176,000 kids. And right now I'm allocating units. That's why you see all those vacancies. It's based on 186. So my thing is, I'm gonna have to balance and wait and see what we look like, right? So if we're at the table now making decisions on enrollment, then I would say we have to wait till we true up. Because I don't get money back until I true up. So with the budget you're seeing out here is the exact budget that the state says we're gonna get. So I'm not playing Ohio State. I'm gonna present again, and I want everybody to ask question. I want it to be clear. I want it to be transparent, because I care about people, and I care about everybody that works at this district. So I want you to be educated and know how this budget works. Because if you don't know, then we're going to be talking in circles. So when we present again, based on their sheet, we're gonna address this like we did last year. And then I want to answer any questions, because I think you guys need to understand that within my power and authority, I'm not looking at, get rid of the fund balance right now. The fund balance is what it is, and I'm gonna invest, right? Because I'm gonna invest that fund balance to make the district more money. So that's what I do, right? But look at the operational, because the operational side of the house is going to tell you, like you receive your paycheck, how much you can spend here. And I do understand there's a lot of things that I haven't got to try to make those corrections, because I do understand. Because I do understand. So I do understand the need here, and Tampa is a new situation, because y'all pay was real low, right? Everybody here. And you got inflation hit. So I do understand your plight. I'm just telling you, but I do want to make it clear. When I present, I do want you guys to question me to death, ask as many questions, because I do want to be transparent. Because we are in this together, and I do want the best for kids in the classroom. Okay, so that's all I want to say, because We got to get the true picture out there. No smoke and mirror. So you guys can be on the same page as I.
And Ms. Johnson, we look forward to that
Yeah.
presentation, but I'll tell you that you over budget, and that's part of your, job, right? And you talk about, you have to, right, you have the budget, well, you're budgeting for X amount of students, say, for, let's say, charter schools. And you have the budget based on how many kids they're telling you they're gonna have, right? You don't have a say in that. Doesn't matter, when they come in below that number, that money true up, as you say, right? But there's never been a point where the district comes back to us and say, hey, guess what, we trued up, and we got $10 more million, let's see what we can do for you guys. You know what you say then? Well, we gotta wait until February because we gotta see what trues up then. But there's never been a time historically where the district comes back and says, guess what, guys? We got a lot of money that came back that we budgeted, and now we have it for you guys. You guys put it into the fund balance or something else, correct or incorrect? Thank you.
There, we do get extra money, going to us. But I look at the whole system because I didn't move. When I had ESSER, I took part of those down and I moved it to a restricted resource. So that ESSER is covering that. But if let me just tell you.
Oh, I'll just give her the microphone.
Or pass the microphone down.
I will pass the microphone down happily.
And that's why I use my teacher voice, Mr. Johnson. I'm not trying to yell.
We can also-
I got a strong voice too.
And you know me long enough as well already.
That's my voice.
Yeah.
Nobody's mad, nobody's mad.
No, I said, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
People think I'm upset about something, but that's not speaking for it, okay? I'm
I
saying,
can share it is.
hey, testing,
It's this way.
okay. I'm so transparent with this budget that every time I do speak to you guys, I do come and I say we true up all the time. And when October comes, we true up. But I do go back and look at everybody, if I put everybody back from the restricted resource back to my budget. And I did that before when I showed you guys the presentation last year. If I brought all those people back where I really would be, my operational side. Because I'm looking at the operational side of the budget. That tells me my capacity. Now, I know you guys think there's something heading, but you're asking the wrong, no, I'm just saying, the right questions to ask has not been asked at this table. I'm just telling you right now. There's a lot of things you guys could ask me that you're not asking me. That is about capacity.
Well, where's the transparency in that? Tell us the questions that we should be asking.
No, but I'm telling you.
No, please. I want to know
I'm
the
just
questions.
telling you, it's capacity is our issue. What is capacity for this district? That's what everybody has. I have over 2,590 vacancies. Is that capacity for this district? No. I'm just saying capacity is the issue, like I was giving you the McDonald's example. If I have 20 staff and my revenue I could only support 10 based on the revenue, then I got too many staff, right?
But here at this McDonald's called the district, we have staff, we need 20, we have 5. That's what's going on in the district.
My point is that, because we can't attract them, right? That's another issue
And
altogether.
on top of that, we still have that 5 doing the work
But
of 20.
Because you're talking about just teachers.
I'm talking about employees.
I'm talking
I'm
about,
not, even the administrators at this table are underpaid and overworked. I want to be clear.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, there's a such thing as capacity within a budget, period. Right? Because we're only getting funded based on the enrollment, right? And then we get other resources that come in. So I want you to limit it just to teachers, the nurses. I want to talk about capacity of an organization, how organization functions. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
True capacity is, are you living within your resource that's been allocated?
And
Whether if I can hire them or not, if I can hire all of them, can I afford everything that we have out there as vacancy?
So what was the financial auditor speaking to when he said that revenues outpaced expenditures? I mean, that's
Because-
what you're talking about, the capacity
Because
of
the
what you have,
But
right?
because the order is not, they wasn't speaking to the actual move. Because the restricted resource, those positions that I take, if I take 1 year, I showed you, I took the first year we was in deficit and we was like gonna be shut down, taken over by the state. I got, ESSER 2 came to the table. I temporary moved salaries to ESSER. That means I freed up revenue, right?
So that's what he's talking about,
Okay.
revenue over expenditures. So I'm outpacing revenue over expenditures without looking at that restricted resource. He's not talking about bodies because you got to understand what they're talking about. I move expenditures off the general fund, so he's talking about just the general fund, that my revenue outpaced the expenditures, because when I close, that's what they're looking at. And that's what most of the time you're looking at, what did you close? And we talked about that last time. I showed you the ESSER move, so if I bring them back, I'm not technically imbalanced. So I'm just saying, so I think we could have these detailed conversations, because you guys are gonna need another budget presentation, and I definitely want to give that. I know you guys don't want it. If you don't want it, you know.
Fine.
Well, and I think,
I did not
speaking
say we
to
don't.
something that Ms. Johnson just mentioned, we're here, and we've all mentioned this, right? We're here earlier than we normally are. And in doing that, we have to allow for the fact that we may lose some of these students. We don't know. We have to allow for the fact that ESSER is ending. We have to, we don't know family empowerment. You know, we've all seen in the media how they say that applications are more than double what they were last year at this time already. I know as a parent, I get, you know, emails daily trying to recruit my kid to family empowerment. So we are earlier in this process than we normally are. We all want to be. We would love to have the increases in place before our employees return. But in doing that, we do have to be conservative. Now, you mentioned that we've never come to you and said, hey, we trued up and X came. Now, there's nothing that says that we can't. But we are here today with what we have now based on what the budget is projecting now on June 6th. And we have to make decisions based on that.
Right. And I think the presentation that we were showing is that recent history shows that you would be fine doing what we're proposing
I'm
based upon that.
But that's
You know.
why it's essential that I do present again, because what you're saying is, however, it's not accurate. And I'm just saying, I'm just gonna say from my perspective, I'm looking at it and I know it's not accurate, but I'm not trying to say, well, I'm saying it's not accurate, right? But my thing is, I do want you guys to understand how it works. Because I want everybody to understand. I know I need to go out and present at sites so people can be educated. I do know that. Because I do want you guys to understand how this budget work and how we're sitting back and we are making decisions, right? To put stuff on the table. And I got to be conscious of this budget at the same time. And yes, our bond rating has came up because there are things that we have done, right? So at the same time, I know you think it's egregious. We have a big fund balance. And we have that's non-recurring dollars. And we can do things with non-recurring dollars, but that's not going to be the recurring. So I got to show you the recurring side of the house, and we got to talk about the non-recurring. So that's only fair for both sides. I'm just saying that just be fair for both sides. I'm taking this. I take my job seriously, and I know you guys take yours.
And so when you continually say that we don't know and you know best and you're right and we're wrong, that does not come across like a transparent working relationship.
No,
because
but
what we're looking at is we look specifically in the funds that we can operate in. And all of this money has been reported by the district to the state.
Well, we did to get the fourth calculation, and we are getting some more money back. It was 2.6 million from the fourth calculation. We just got it yesterday. So my thing is, I'm being transparent, and I'm going to show you. I'm just saying the way you're looking at it is wrong. I ain't saying you're wrong from what you're saying, but the way you're looking at it from that
because of the
perspective.
ESSER?
Well,
Mostly?
it's just not
To
ESSER.
clarify.
It's how the budget is built, the
But-
timing and everything.
So everything you're saying,
Mhm.
you continue to say words like, we're not looking at it right. It's this, it's the way we budget. And none of that is made clear. So when we go and we look at specific parts of the budget, again, parts that we know that we can work within, because we know you have restricted funds and there are operating expenses that do not apply to salaries and things that we can bargain. But again, regardless, when we look at the entire budget, right? And what is coming in revenues to this district have continued to grow. The district fund balance has consistently grown when we underspend in those revenues. So, okay, if you're using ESSER to supplant, you're using ESER.
Supplement, not supplement.
Okay.
I didn't want to say, because that's illegal, that's all.
Okay,
Supplement.
you're using money,
Bonus.
you're using money in lieu of revenue, right? That's coming, and that's what's building the fund balance. If we were using ESER to supplement lack of revenue, then we would not see that fund balance continue to grow. That's where the disconnect is. And so maybe
Okay.
you can explain that to our.
I will.
Are you
I will.
okay if, can we caucus for a few minutes so that we can have a cohesive,
Yep.
all right. All right.
All right. So, hey, everyone who's watching. So we've been waiting on the district through their caucus. They've been trying to work through our presentation, and we were hoping maybe to come back with a presentation or maybe a counter, I don't know. But we've been waiting. They've been in touch with us, asking for a little more time, but they have just let us know that they're gonna need more time, and they're not gonna be able to come back today. So we're going to work with the district to set a future date. But we've got some asks for those of you who are employees who are watching.
Yeah, I just want to invite all of you to join us, the entire bargaining team, on June 18th at 5:30 at the school board meeting. That would be when we're going to congregate there and walk right into the school board, wear your red shirt. June 18th, 5:30 is when we're going to meet. You can get there earlier. The meeting begins at 4. Public comment begins at 6. So if you're willing to be there, wear a shirt. If you're willing to be there and speak to the school board, even better. But we hope to see you there, and thank you for all of your support.
All right, thanks.